hook up a stereo loon. Oh yeah.
Hello, Kent Larsen here from Stereoloon. Um, just want to give you some idea about placement of speaker and what listening position is generally the best in a room. Um, this is a rectangular room. This is my little model here, and that's typically the best, easily controlled environment. A lot of people think that like churches or round rooms will be like great. Truth is that they're extremely rambunctious and full of weird resonances and stuff that's very hard to control. And the reverberant sound in a church pretty much adds a lot of coloration to the sound, like a lot of resonances and stuff that you don't want in a reproduction of a piece of music. Because that music already from the studio is like designed to have all its characters, so it's gonna sound pretty bad to place that in something of that nature. So let me show you a little bit of how to create a nice environment and get the most out of your stereo that way. So first, where do you sit in the room? Let me just take one last sip here. Mm. 1/3 from the back wall. That's where you can place your favorite couch or whatever you want to sit in when you're listening to your favorite music. And the speakers, bam, 1/3 from the other wall. So you'll have 1/3 of the room between the middle of your position, pretty much where your ears are going to be, and then the baffle of the speaker here, of the speakers. This is the rule of thirds, known in the hi-fi world, and it's very generally used. And uh, so simply 1/3 from the back from each wall in is where everything is. What's important also additionally is that the distance from the wall here is not the same as down to this wall. A lot of people think that, well, if I place it symmetrically down here in a corner, then it's going to be really good. No, not even a little. That's a very bad position. And the reason is that you're creating an even environment for the same resonance. Because you're going to have resonances, you're going to have standing waves between walls and stuff like that. You just, unless you have an anechoic chamber that costs a couple of million that you don't even like to be in anyway, because it doesn't have any reverberant sounds, you're going to be able to hear your own heartbeat and stuff like that. Uncomfortable stuff generally to basically anyone. There's a few people that has no problem being in an anechoic chamber, but most people has an unpleasant feeling and feel enclosed. So back to our living room here. So you want to make sure that besides the rule of thirds here, you want to make sure that things are like asymmetric. Um, Of course, you want to copy the same placement on each side so that the time difference from each of these speakers going to your ear is not off. And also the actual volume, that not one is not louder than the other by being closer to you. So that, of course, you want symmetric. Then comes the direction of the speaker. Weep, weep, weep. So, what I advise is that you place them straight in the room, and then you put on your favorite piece of music, and then you start moving them slowly in, and you keep on moving them in until you feel like the stereo perspective kind of collapses and becomes a corridor, sort of like a hallway. And that point, you know that um, you have to go back just a little bit to open up that stereo perspective, because you don't want it too like uh, too spread thin. You know, you want to have a little bit of well, it's really a taste. Now we're getting into a taste where you want, but basically that's the process. You start it straight, and then you start moving in until, and then you go back again, and then you find your position. But so you still want to stick with the room of thirds. You want to make sure that the distance to between the outside, the side walls is different from to the back walls. Quickly, if you have a completely square room, um, you might want to, let's what do we do here? What do we do here? Okay, so if we made this a square room, I don't know, so that the room is just within this little pot here, you might want to orient it like this instead, if you know what I mean there, so that, because a completely a square room like that, it's going to have so many resonances, but you can get away with some of it, with some of all these resonances, by by turning it at an angle through the room this way. And so let's get back to our rectangular room. That's, in my experience, what most people are having as a reality for a room, and that's quite a good way to have as a listening room. And there's a lot of information in regards to rectangular rooms, because that's what most people have. What if you have a television in here? Well, that actually can make quite a difference. If a lot of people do, is they put the television at the same height as the baffle of the speakers, because that would probably be the most aesthetically pleasing. Problem is that the sound propagation goes out, disperses out, and actually will dance here at the front of this TV, and create a lot of hassle for a good stereo perspective there. So you need to recess your TV a little bit. But I mean, with this way of placing it 1/3 into the room, usually that's not a problem. Of course, you're going to have some wasted space here, but do you want the experience or not? That's basically what it comes down to then. All right. So, yeah, let's just keep the TV here. All right. Ah, it broke. Um, so, a couple more things that you can do. You can do some acoustic treatment of the room. I highly recommend, to kind of take out unwanted resonances. You're not going to take them out entirely, but you can certainly improve your experience. So the first reflective point on the wall, which is about here, to your listening position. So speaker will have some of what's called the off-axis sound. There's on-axis, that's here. That's a direct sound. And then there's off-axis. So this is the speaker. And then just real quick here, let's put another absorption panel over here. Okay. So your off-axis sound typically has a slight different personality than your direct sound. Your direct on-axis sound, as it's called, on-axis frequency response to be precise, will be the one that's cared for the most, and that's the one we're looking at as data when we're buying speakers. The off-axis is rarely represented. We have to look much deeper into it, or if you're buying some very expensive stuff, it might have it. But so the off-axis will typically have less dispersion when it comes to the higher frequency. So as the sounds gets higher and higher, it will kind of channel more and more towards you. So so the first point here, if you don't absorb it, you're gonna have a lot of direct or a lot of off-axis sound going to your ear basically at the same time as the direct sound is arriving to your ear, and that can mud your the way that you're listening to the music, and it can destroy your stereo perspective quite a bit. So very good idea to play some absorption at a very first point. If you have some big speakers, floor standing speakers, I will seriously suggest that you have a good thick carpet down, because you also have what's called floor bounce, and that's since the speaker isn't just projecting this way in the room, it projects just as much between your floor and your ceiling. So I highly recommend. I mean, if you have wooden floor, you might even want to put some kind of a mat in front of here, a rug that can absorb some of that floor bounce. And so we're getting a little bit deep into it here, getting a little bit nerdy, but this is certainly something that will improve the liveness of the sound. I mean, absorption sounds like we're going to be stealing away from stuff here, but we really are not. I mean, it's going to open up your stereo perspective and make it sound more alive by dimming some of these resonances and standing waves. So this again, in an opinion way, put absorption and uh, and then this guy here, where I like to put in the back, and that's called a diffuser. The diffusers is typically consisting of a lot of different lengths and sizes of wood. So when your sound hits it, it's gonna break up the sound waves and evenly disperse them from there, and and therefore it will have reverberant sound. It will give the sound back out again, but it's going to spread out the frequency throughout the band and make it nice and wonderful. So that's pretty much it. The rule of thirds. You don't have to do this right away, but try this first, and then you'll see what how much it lifts your music by doing this to your system. Yet you want to try the absorption and the diffusers. And later on, we're going to be talking about bass traps and that sort of thing. So really make the best out of what you have. So thank you for watching.
That was it for Stereoloon. Please check in again. I'm gonna have something else. So thank you. Bye.